Listen, one of my favorite parts about Marvel Rivals, guys, is that there's 33 vastly different heroes to choose from. But let me tell you, the difficulty range of these characters is wild. Like, some are so damn easy that the game practically plays itself, whereas playing some of the more difficult ones have you feeling every match is like rolling the dice, but every side says lose. Like, you'll be spending more time looking up how to play the character than actually playing the game. But you know what? Some of you guys might like that. So today, let's find your perfect main, whether you want brain on vacation mode easy, or if you want a challenge and you want to perfect a high skill ceiling character. I've got you covered. Let's rank them. All right, guys, so to judge all this, we have this kind of graph with 2 different bars. It might look complex, but trust me, it's not. Essentially, we have our bottom bar from green to easiest and red to hardest, and then a vertical bar. And the bottom one represents the metric of easy to learn and contribute, green being the easiest and red the hardest. So essentially, how fast can you pick up the hero, learn the kit, and help out your team for success? Whereas the vertical bar is hard to master and contribute, obviously being hard to pick up, and then obviously having a meaningful impact in the game. So again, before we begin, this is my personal opinion on each hero. What it doesn't mean is if someone is easy to learn and easy to master that hero sucks by any means, but more so like how fast can you learn a hero and then also master their kit to be, you know, the best you can. So jumping in, first up, we got Adam Warlock, who I would say is one of the harder supports to learn in the game, just the way that he is mechanically with his primary and his kind of responsibility to deal damage, but then also in the way that he heals, in the way that his ultimate is insanely clutch, but you have to use it right. But where he is kind of hard to learn, I do feel like once you get the hang of Soul Bond and his ultimate and the way that he does heal properly, after which I feel like he's relatively easy to master. Next up, we got a fun one. It's Black Panther, and this is going to be one of the highest on both metrics. In my opinion, we've got the King of Wakanda going really hard to learn just to get the combos to be effective and to contribute, not feed the enemy team, to be able to one-on-one duel and self-sustain your health on health packs. There's kind of a lot going on with him. You have to watch your opponent, your cooldowns, manage a lot, as well as being aware kind of where everyone is. So I've got him both hard to learn and hard to perfect and master. All right, so it's going to start off a little lopsided, guys. Trust me, it definitely evens out. But we have Black Widow here, and I have her also incredibly hard to learn and contribute, right? So as far as how easy is she to learn, yes, she's got one button. You scope it in, but the keyword being contribute, it's not easy. She's definitely kind of held back in comparison to some of the other characters in the game with what she offers. So I know at first I did have her in the all the way green and then all the way red for hard to master, but it feels like she's kind of both. All right, next up is the Hulk. And here's the thing, guys. It might be easy to pick up, transform into the Hulk and, you know, just die. But if you want to contribute and like not feed the enemy team and kind of learn how to min-max a lot of his abilities and his protection and not just, again, die all the time, I've got him kind of middle of the pack to learn that, and then even harder to master. Captain America. Odds are you tried out Captain and you realized this guy either sucks is what you thought, or what am I doing? Like, what does he do well? And that's because he's not the easiest to learn. I actually have him as one of the hardest tanks to learn in the game properly and contribute. But then also, he's not easy to master either. Once you learn him a little bit, he takes a lot of perfecting and playing and really learning the ins and outs and what his combos are and his damage that can be dealt. All right, next up, we have the support Cloak and Dagger. And you got like, what, 2-for-1s. I actually found them pretty nice to learn and just like jump right in there and again, contribute into rank matches like bronze and silver. But if you want to play them later on, mastering their kit is not going to be easy. To really min-max, when to switch, what abilities to use, watching your cooldowns, it's going to take some mastering. So I do rank them pretty high. All right, Doctor Strange. All the tanks were a little weird to rank, I'll be honest. But with Doctor Strange, I feel like, yes, you just kind of hold up his shield and just don't portal to troll like all the time. And so I do feel like he's easier to kind of jump in and play. And as long as you know the basics, contribute for your team. And he's kind of relative, maybe a little bit harder to master his tech and learn to do kind of the shield machine gun and clutch portal placement and you know, flying the cloak up to block ultimates. Like, he has a lot of little things going on, as well as his ultimate is probably one of the most impactful to win a lot of games. And so just mastering that window where he's able to get hit and die is kind of tough. I would say if you want to learn tank and kind of ease into mastering one, Strange is a great place to start. All right, so we've got Groot next, and originally I had him way easier to learn, right? But the thing is, wall placement is not as easy as you think. If you want to pick Groot and just die a lot, you know, and wonder why aren't your healers healing you, they are. You're just taking a whole lot of damage. All right, so we got Hawkeye, and he's kind of where I had Black Widow at first. I think he's pretty easy to pick up and know what you're doing and contribute. Like, if you can aim well, you get some headshots. If you're even actually relatively good at aim, because of Hawkeye being so good, you can just down a lot of characters, get a lot of eliminations. But if you truly want to know how to handle, like, flanking characters and what do you do when someone like Black Panther does challenge you and you can consistently carry the team well, I do think he's harder to master. Now, one of the other best characters in the game, Hela, is up next. And, you know, I think that she does have a fair amount going on, but between her ult and you just kind of using her main basic attack over and over with the throwing of the knives, she's a little easier than like the dead middle of average on easy to learn and contribute. Once you get the aim down, once you kind of figure out, you're going to know what to do. And that's kind of the same with hard to master. I feel like, again, if you know what you're doing with Hela and if you have great aim, you should be able to contribute a fair amount. All right, we have the Kung Fu Master, Iron Fist, and I know a lot of you think he might be super easy to play, but I feel like most Iron Fists that like him early on, they die a lot, right? Kind of like Black Panther, it's going to take some time to learn how to duel with him, close the distance, and just master what he does. That being said, his kit is pretty simple, so I do have him, you know, relatively hard to learn early and contribute in a meaningful way. But again, kind of like Groot, once you have the base mechanics down, his kit is simple enough per se to where, you know, you're going to get it down quickly, making him relatively easy to master. Tony Stark, Iron Man. Where do I want Iron Man? I feel like Iron Man is towards the easier side of learning. You know, like you're going to have to get kind of his jet mechanics down on top of like learning how to optimize his missile and his ult placement. He's definitely not the hardest by any means. He's definitely in more the green area to learn. And I would say about the same, maybe a little higher on mastering him. Once you got the basics down, you're going to have a good feel of how he plays. Jeff the Baby Landshark, one of the easiest heroes to learn and contribute, in my opinion. His heal is great. I think the thing that's hard to master and why I've got him pretty high up or somewhat on the bar is the bubbles. You know, I feel like these are health packs, and placing these in the right way, sparingly, and being strategic about it is not the easiest thing. And so placement and hide and seek, wall climbing, and his ult at the right time, you combine all this together, and I do think he is easy to pick up and play. But if you want to perfect him, you know, you're gonna have to put some time in. Then we move on to Loki, and I think everybody can agree he's not as straightforward as some of the other supports, and you know, his healing is definitely different. The decoy management and how you need to effectively use the decoys and switch between the decoys and master placing your runes for ultimates combined with his healing. Like, I'm going to be honest, this guy's got a lot going on. I think that truly to master a Loki and contribute like in a meaningful way is actually pretty tough. I would say like pick up and learn the character, maybe a little bit tougher than Cloak and Dagger, kind of in that yellow area, but to master him completely, I've got him towards the very top. All right, so moving to Luna Snow, definitely an easier character to learn in the game. You can kind of start off the rip if you've never played Strategist and you just want to heal and do some damage with kind of simple to learn abilities. Luna's going to be the support for you. And in that, kind of as you play and as she's easy to pick up and contribute, she does become equally as easy to master, in my opinion. Like, there is some tech like who to freeze and during ultimates, and there's also like her dancing and when to do the damage. But compared to the other characters here, I think someone like Loki is just way tougher. All right, Magik. We got another duelist who, again, I like to play a lot, and I've got her kind of in the harder section of learning, just to nail down when to place a demon, when to spin, the one-shot combo. Again, you know, kind of managing what battles that you can and cannot take. Not near as hard as someone like Black Panther, but is definitely flirting with that area. I feel like I've seen a lot of Magics out there that are doing something good, but then you've got the ones that can really hard carry because they've kind of mastered her mechanics. All right, so Magneto, I think, is probably like one of the most centered characters in the game. I think he is relatively... you know, you can pick up and play him, I get it, but to, you know, to do accurate damage, to know when to shield, who to shield, and when to put up, you know, your metallic curtain, and mastering the ring system and utilizing your ult to counter, he does feel, you know, pretty easy to learn once you get the hang of it, and about middle of the pack to be an effective Magneto. Then we got, in my opinion, the best support in the entire game in Mantis. And good God, if you haven't played Mantis, player, I was able to fly through the ranks with her, and man, I love her. I would say, here's the thing about Mantis. You can do decent damage, you can heal well, and her ult is easy. And so to pick up and contribute is honestly pretty damn easy. However, landing crits so that you always can use your other abilities effectively I think is actually tough to do. She's not the easiest character to master because of that, and to really get the most out of her, I think she's towards the top. All right, next up is Moon Knight, and I think that the guy is really pretty easy to contribute good damage so long as you can aim relative at all. And then about middle of the pack to master. This is a great character to, get into the game and do some nice damage, feel like you're doing something, and then you can learn as you play him more to kind of perfect the kit. Next up is Namor, and a very interesting one. I think he's pretty damn easy to learn, and pretty easy to master. I feel like turret placement takes a little bit of time, so I have him ranked kind of where Iron Man is on, contributing. Those turrets attack themselves, but if you're placing them badly, they're just going to get destroyed. Learning to put the turrets down and then using your special attack that has them all focus one person is important. Whale usage and when to stasis. And so I think that once you get the hang of him, he's one of the easiest to master. Because there's not a whole lot going on, but I guess you can get a little bit better with turret placement. It's spider time are words that haunt me when I sleep. I think Peni Parker is, as I said in my tier list, very underrated. I actually think that she's somewhat tough to learn to use effectively and contribute. Anybody can place the mines, but knowing when to web and to get her passives going, combined with setting up and kind of luring people in and knowing when and when not to kind of go in and go out with your health pool. She does have a lot going on, and once you know it is going to be relatively easy. And for me personally, in my journey, once I was getting the hang of her and her easiness to contribute, I felt like I was getting better and better at her at kind of that same rate. So I have her in line with Magneto, but just a little bit easier to master. Psylocke, not the hardest to learn and contribute, but definitely pretty hard. And when it comes to truly mastering her and her kit and what she does well, I think it is definitely easier than something like Black Panther or Spider-Man. So with that, I have her placed kind of in this kind of no man's land. There's not a lot of characters around here. But when looking in comparison to the other DPS and kind of mastering the way you can call your shurikens back, and again, picking and choosing certain fights and just not dying, relying on health packs, same thing as Black Panther a bit. This feels like a good spot. Raccoon, I've got as probably the easiest support to learn. His healing, you don't have to aim. His primary, you can do, pretty relatively good damage. But his gadgets are great. His escape is solid. He's shifty and small. And really, there's not crazy amounts to learn on him either. Once you get the basics down, you're going to get better at placing your BRB device and when to do your ultimate, and maybe learning a couple techs like I did in my one tip for every hero, where you go up a wall and then jetpack away. So I've got him towards kind of the bottom in both areas. Again, it doesn't mean he's bad. If you want to play support and be meaningful, this might be a good place to start. Scarlet Witch is going to be bottom left, and that is about where she belongs. She is really easy to pick up with her auto-aim primary, and, her ultimate can team wipe. And I will say she does have a learning curve, in harder play, but there's nothing crazy to master. I would say the hardest that she gets is flying up in the air with Mystic Projection and then kind of hovering down and using your primary attack and then, hiding and doing your ult correctly or teaming up with your team or, initiating the right way. The things you need to master with her is pretty simple. And then you have Spider-Man, who's literally, in my opinion, I think the hardest character to learn and the hardest character to truly master. The difference between a good Spider-Man and an okay one and a great one is pretty big. There's so much to animation canceling, when to go in, when to go out. Can you effectively contribute and get picks? Spider-Man, in my opinion, it has the highest skill ceiling in the game. So if you're good at this character, hats off to you. All right, Squirrel Girl, I have, honestly, probably as the easiest character to learn. I'm going to be honest, her stuns are a little tough, I guess, but, just barraging onto the point and getting meaningful damage is easy to do. And maybe it goes up a bit to master her, but there's not a lot of complexity to her kit, and so she's kind of right there with Scarlet Witch a bit in her area. Again, not saying she's the worst character in the game, but I feel like it's relatively simple to learn what she does. I get that you have to reload and jump and whatnot, but comparably, I would say it's pretty easy. So Star-Lord, kind of tough to place. I've got him in between Hela and Punisher, not to spoil Punisher's placement. He does have a lot more going on than them two, his ability placement, his ultimate, there's not a lot to master there. But I'm going to be honest, to fully master this guy, I think he's actually pretty tough. I think there's a lot going on with his abilities that you can combine and when to use them and who to concentrate. I think he's easy to pick up, but then if you really want to get good with him, it's going to take some time. Okay, so Storm is weird. I don't think she's good at all, but let's place her. I think she's relatively harder to learn than some of the DPS. You've got the support stuff going on with her. Super simple kit, but to, maximize the damage and speed switch off and truly contribute with her few abilities, is like Black Widow, right? It's not the easiest thing to learn, even though it's a simple kit. But then once you get the hang of it, it is easy to master. So it kind of feels like Groot and Iron Fist in that regard. All right, then we have the last 5. Punisher, again, I have, was one of the easier characters to learn. DPS, if you come from COD, it's going to feel right at home. But then to master him with, his grenades and his grapple and his shotgun and effectively using these at high ranks, combined with who to focus and shields to go down, Punisher is actually a bit more complex than you might think. And so I do have him ranked kind of middle of the pack for hard to master. So when it comes to Thor, not just charging in and hoping your healers just continue to support you as you swing away, I do feel like being a good Thor takes some time. So with Thor, how easy is it to learn and contribute? I would say it's not the easiest thing to do. I see a lot of Thors just hope their supports help them out, and to really get a feel for his Thor force, it does take some time. But again, once you've got that down, it's not like the hardest to really get that snowballing and learning how to effectively use it all. And so I've got him kind of a little bit higher than average. All right, so Venom, super easy to learn and contribute. Go in, dive. Don't be an idiot and just die all the time. But, he's got a relatively simple task of annoyance. But I'll say I think to master him is kind of harder than you think, to make sure you do relatively good damage and truly sustain long enough and hold the point. And there's a lot of micro things going on with him. Winter Soldier, man, yes, you do a lot of damage, but there's a lot going on with this guy's kit and using it to its full effect. I've got Bucky Barnes on the harder side to master, especially with his aim and his grapple and his ultimate. But as you progress with him and get used to the way his mechanics work and his aim and his gun and his reload, I would say he lands in that yellow area for master. And then last but not least, we have Wolverine, who I think is to contribute very hard. I think he's probably one of the harder ones to easy to learn contribute because, well, he's not great. And because he's not great, you're going to feed a lot. And because he's not great, he can't survive a lot. And so, to learn him where you're not just feeding a lot is going to take a lot of skill. However, once you learn that, I think it's going to be pretty easy to, figure out the rest of his kit. And so because of that, I have him towards the bottom of mastery. All right, so there's my opinion of all the characters from easy to hardest. Again, maybe God handcrafted you to be a god in Marvel Rivals. Awesome. But for the majority, I think this is going to be about right. If you have some different opinion, hell yeah, put it down in the comments below. And if you enjoyed the video, go ahead and subscribe. Good luck out there. Until the next one, happy rivaling.